G'day Bomber fans, well the draft is on Wednesday. I've talked to you guys about over 50, closer to 60 players. You know all about the crop by now, I'm sure. But now it's time for me to tell you really quickly who I want Essendon to take in the draft. So today I'm going to talk about options from every range of the upcoming draft. The first round, the second round, the third round. And I'm going to highlight my favourite players. That way if we take someone, you'll know if I'm being serious about liking them or not. And just to make it a little bit more interesting, I will cover all bases in talking about positions and whatnot. And by the way, there are some players I won't discuss that I really like. This is a deep draft, super deep. That's why many are calling it a super draft. And also, for those wondering how I'm determining first, second, and third round, I'm kind of going off what I think the likely range for these players is based on how much they're talked about and everything. So a guy I have in the second round portion of this video may slide to the third or bolt up to the first. It's just generalized for now. And also, this is me quickly talking about my favourite soon-to-be draftees, but I'd love it if you guys wrote down in the comments below the player you want Essendon to take on Wednesday and Thursday. But let's get into it, starting with the first round, because we've been linked to a cheeky trade up the order. Alright, starting with Harry Armstrong. Now, I'm obviously not going to talk about my real favourites, guys like Sid Draper and whatnot, or not real favourites, but the guys that I think are the best, because that's an unrealistic range for us that early. I am being realistic with my choices here, but Harry Armstrong, that is the best key forward in one of the best drafts in years, and that's saying something because this draft is exceptional. You've heard me yap on about Armstrong for weeks now. There's plenty to like. He's a mobile and rangy key forward. He's got a lovely left boot on him, great consistency and great conversion. Really, he's just the perfect trustworthy key forward. He's not a highlights machine, but you can trust him to kick a goal or two a game. If we were to trade up for a player, I would hope it's Armstrong because I can see him complementing Caddy and Kako really nicely for the future, and I also know that he's the most popular choice amongst you guys, so go crazy talking about him in the comments. Next up, Tobie Travaglia. I mean, this is more based around excitement more than anything. He's just so fun to watch, and I think he'd come into most teams next year and make himself a presence straight away. He's going to be talked about for the future, which is really fun. Travaglia is a medium-sized defender, kind of like that Mason Redmond mould. He's not a key, but he's really good in the air, so you can trust him on different sized forwards, which is fantastic. He's really versatile as well in the roles he plays, and that would help our team right now. He's a great gut-running player too, which we're lacking, so there's I feel like we're missing a player like Travaglia for the future. He just plugs holes that we're missing. He's obviously that defender that we don't have. He's that gut runner that we don't have. We got Redmond, but in 5 years, we're going to need someone else, and that's when a guy like Travaglia could come in and develop. I'd be really happy to see us draft him, and he would add excitement for the future for any team. Alright, a bit of a smoky, Jonty Faull. Now, I think there are players we should draft ahead of him, if available, but I really like the look of this forward. Last year, I was feeling the same way about Logan Morris in that 30 range. I talked about him a lot on the channel, and look at him. He turned into a premiership forward. He's great. This year, it's the same for Jonty Faull. He just has AFL level qualities, which I think are going to be on display as early as next year. He's got terrific sticky hands. He's a really strong mark. He leads out of that forward 50 so well. This is a very different player to Nate Caddy and Armstrong, but one that I think could complement Caddy well for the future. I think Faull is outside of our range a little bit because he's kind of in that 20 plus range, but if we were to somehow pick up a selection there, or maybe if Faull slides, I would really like him on our list. If we draft him, I will not be unhappy in most circumstances, really. I think he has quite a lot going for him. A late first rounder, but first rounder regardless. On to the second round, Harry O'Farrell. Now, this is a guy I'd be keeping an eye on a bit. He's a member of that Calder Cannons team, so he's teammates with Kako and Ewan. He's a tall defender, really solid one-on-one, and that's the great thing about him. He's a defender more than anything. You look at guys like Taru, or high guys up the order, like Taru, who's praised for his athleticism, or Trainer, who's praised for his ball use, but O'Farrell is just a super intelligent and reliable key back, something that we really haven't had for a while. It's also the chemistry he'd add to our team, having played with soon-to-be teammates in Kako and Ewan. I think this is probably one of the players I'll be keeping an eye on the most on draft night. Every time his name isn't read out, I'm going to be happy because it means we're one step closer to picking him up. I like him a lot. I think he's very underrated. Alright, another really underrated and reliable defender or forward. James Barrat has played most of the season as a key forward, but he did make his VFL debut with Essendon as a backman, so that should be noted. He's played for the Bombers once already. He's put on the red and black. Barrat, I feel, has quite a low ceiling compared to others, but I think you draft him for that needs-based reason. He can come in and be a reliable swingman. Not a star. I don't think he's going to be a star, but he's going to be reliable and consistent, and he's going to show leadership. He's really a young boy in a man's body. He looks physically built already, so it won't take too long for him to play. And like O'Farrell, he's just trustworthy with his craft. I'd really like this because you draft him knowing you get a decent player for the future. I feel like he's not going to be a star, as I said, but he's not going to be a flop either. To me, this is a really safe pick if you want a handy, workman-like key defender on your list. Jack Ough, I mean, big-bodied midfielders don't really grow on trees. This is a guy who's flown under the radar all year, and he's only just started getting noticed by us fans in recent weeks. I think he's grown a little fan base amongst Essendon fans already. One, because he himself supports the Bombers. That helps. Two, because he is a position we've lacked for years. I can't remember the last time we had a good, big-bodied midfielder, and the good thing is, there is upside here too. I can see Ough being a really solid midfielder in 3 to 4 years' time. He won't be as good as Josh Smiley or Beau Allen, two players I also really like, but they're going to be gone well before in the draft. But Ough is nothing to be scoffed at, and I wouldn't mind us throwing a pick away for him. I think this would also please fans too. On to the third round, Clancy Dennis, West Aussie key defender. I wouldn't be talking about interstate players if I didn't think they had upside and could be good players for us. I think Clancy Dennis is really, really underrated this draft. I've watched him a fair bit and really liked what he's shown. He looks like a really great intercepting backman. He's been praised quite a lot for his leadership too, which we're obviously lacking. I've said it on this channel before, but I think Dennis would be a top 30 player in just about any other draft, but because this draft is so deep with good key position players, he's slid down to probably that third round. I really like the look of Dennis. I don't know if we'll take him, but if we do with one of our third round picks, expect a very happy Felix. Alright, now I was going to talk about Jackson Artemis originally here, but I didn't want to have another West Aussie to annoy you guys, so instead we have Harry Charleson, who's a very similar player. Charleson is a rebounding defender, something we're obviously lacking right now. Our depth there is shot. Victorian, so you guys will be happy to know that. He's a good size and a good aerial player, but I really like him for his breakneck speed and ball carrying ability. He's a good kick, but I like him carrying the ball under the wing. He's also really fit, so you'll see him top time trials and use his tank to win a lot of the ball in the VFL before he plays AFL minutes. I think there are a few really good looking defender or wing types in this range. I like Charleson as one of them. I like Artemis. I think both would work for me. And finally, a bit of a rogue shout. Well, not a rogue shout, but a tough shout. It's a really hard one to read this, but Archer Day-Wicks, who knows how good this guy will be. At his best, he's been talked about as a top 10 prospect. At his worst, many say he's barely worth a rookie pick. He's all over the place. He's inconsistent. Who knows how he'll end up, but that's the fun thing. His ceiling is sky high. His worth is hard to read, but a third rounder could be a real steal in the future when we look back on it. He's an X-Factor forward, a good Jake Stringer replacement. Will he get it right straight away? Who knows? Probably not, but I wouldn't mind the club risking it on him with a later selection. And this guy really could be anything. He could be a star. If we have already picked up good options before him, reliable options like Barrat or O'Farrell or Artemis or Charleson, why not risk it for the biscuit and take the X-Factor forward who many thought would be a first round draft pick at the start of the year? And that is that. I just had to quickly let you guys know who I really like the look of this draft. Those were 9 players, but trust me, there are many more. In fact, some of my favourites I didn't discuss because there were players similar to them. I didn't talk about Harry Oliver, which feels weird because I really think he'll be a player. I didn't talk about Beau Allen or Xavier Lindsay or Tom Gross. I could have made this a much longer video. The point of this is for you guys to watch after draft night, because if one of these guys is taken by the club, you'll know that I'm going to be pretty happy with our haul, especially when you pair it with Isaac Kako. But yeah, that's all. Leave your favourites down below in the comments. Make sure you like the video, subscribe if you're new, and as always, go Bombers.